Hello and welcome to today's Daf installment doing Tractate Masechet Teruma, Daf 3. Let's see how far we can go. So just following on from the previous Daf 2, the last sentence. And if one separates Teruma, the portion of produce designated for a priest, from his own produce for the purpose of exempting the produce of another, so what does that mean? For the produce of another. If one separates Teruma from his own produce in order to exempt another's produce, the separation of Teruma takes effect. The benefit of discretion belongs to the one who performed the act of separation. He may give the Teruma to a priest of his choosing. This is in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Abahu in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Rambam Sefer Zerayim, Teruma 4:2. The benefit of discretion as to which priest or Levite will receive it is his. Apparently, a halacha of substitution follows the one achieving atonement. Rami Bahamas could say this. There in Rabbi Yochanan's statement, the offering comes on behalf of the Jew who consecrated it. Due to that reason, we follow the one atoning, and during both the initial consecration of the offering and its ultimate sacrifice, the animal is in the possession of a Jew who was able to effect substitution. But here, when the Gentile consecrated the animal, this is how we raise the dilemma. Do we require that from the initial consecration of the offering until the ultimate act of sacrifice, it must be in the possession of one who is able to effect substitution or not? And while concludes, the dilemma shall stand teku unresolved. What's teku? The straightforward explanation of this Aramaic term is shall stand. It is generally used in Gemara to teach a dilemma will remain to teach that a dilemma will remain unresolved. In fact, the term is almost never found other than at the close of a discussion. There is a parallel word in the Jewish Talmud occasionally found in the Babylonian Talmud as well, tibaye, literally ask a dilemma, indicating that the matter remains an open question. Although not at the literal meaning, some raise the suggestion that the term teku alludes to the acrostic tishbi yataretz kushot ayot, meaning the tishbite, i.e. Elijah the prophet, will resolve questions and dilemmas. That is to say, we do not currently have the resolution for this issue. We must await the arrival of Elijah the prophet to resolve it. The Master said in the Bride society on the previous Omid, with regard to animals consecrated by Gentiles, one may not derive benefit out of Benusho, and if one benefited from them after the fact, he is not liable for misusing consecrated property. The Gemara explains, halacha is that one may not benefit from the Benusho is by rabbinic law, and that halacha, and if one benefited from them after the fact that he is not liable for misusing consecrated property, is by Torah law. What is the reason that one is not liable for misuse? As it is written with regard to misuse of consecrated property, if anyone commit a trespass and sin through error in the holy item of the law, Leviticus 5:15, and we derive a verbal analogy from the use of the word sin, and the word sin used in the context of teruma. According to the discussion in Kedushin 41b, and the early commentaries there, according to Rabbi Shimon, separation by a Gentile of teruma from his produce does not take effect. By contrast, in Jerusalem Talmud Teruma 3:5, it is indicated that according to Rabbi Shimon, it is considered teruma, but it does not carry the stringency of a Jew's teruma. The same is true of an offering of a Gentile. It is consecrated, but not subject to prohibition against deriving benefit and halacha of misuse of consecrated objects that apply to a Jew's offering. That they shall therefore keep my charge, lest they bear sin for it, Leviticus 22:9. And with regard to teruma, it is written explicitly, even of all the hallowed items of the children of Israel, Numbers 18:8, from which one can infer, but not of Gentiles, the halacha of misuse as well, therefore do not apply to animals consecrated by Gentiles. The Bride continues, and if one consumes them, i.e. animals consecrated by Gentiles, one is not liable for committing a transgression with regard to the prohibition of pigul, nota, or consuming offerings while richly impure. The source for this is a verse, as is written with God's rich impurity. Speak to Aaron and to his sons that they separate themselves from the holy items of the children of Israel, which they hallow unto me, and that they profane not my holy name. Leviticus 22:2. This verse explicitly mentions items consecrated by the children of Israel, To emphasize that the halach of distancing oneself from consecrated items more than say the rich impurity does not include items consecrated by Gentiles. And one derives the exemption from nota by drawing a verbal analogy between the word profane, used in the context of nota, and the word profane, used in the context of rich impurity. As it is written in the verse cited above with regard to rich impurity, that they separate themselves from the holy items of the children of Israel, which they hallow unto me, and that they profane not my holy name. And it is written with regard to nota, but everyone that eats it shall bear his iniquity, because he has profaned the holy item of the Lord, Leviticus 19:8. Since the prohibition against consuming consecrated items while impure do not apply to the offerings of Gentiles, neither does the prohibition of nota. And the Tana of the Bride derives the Gentiles' exemption from pickle by verbal analogy between the word iniquity, used in the context of pickle, and the word iniquity, used in the context of nota. As is written with regard to pickle, and the soul that cuts off shall bear his iniquity, Leviticus 7:18. As is written with regard to nota, when everyone that eats it shall bear his iniquity, because he has profaned the holy item of the Lord, Leviticus 19:8. And based on these two verbal analogies, one concludes that with regard to all of them, i.e. pickle, nota, and richly impure offerings, the prohibition against consumption applies only to offerings of the children of Israel, but not to those of Gentiles. The Bible continues, and the Gentile cannot render a non-sacred animal a substitute for one he has consecrated. The Gemara cites a source for this halacha. Now this is written with regard to substitutions. He shall not exchange it, nor substitute it, Leviticus 27:10. As is written at the beginning of the Matter, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when a man shall clearly utter a vow of persons to the Lord according to your valuation, Leviticus 27:2. Since the passage specifically addresses the children of Israel, the halacha of substitution apply only to them, not to Gentiles. The Gemara presents another version of the source for this halacha. The Brisa states, and a Gentile cannot render a non-sacred item, a non-sacred animal, a substitute for one he is consecrated. What is the reason? The reason is that the substitution of consecrated animal is juxtaposed with the animal tithe, see Leviticus 27:32, and the animal tithe is juxtaposed with the grain tithe. And with regard to the grain tithe, it is written, for the tithe of the children of Israel, for which they set apart as a gift to the Lord, I have given to the Levites for an inheritance, Numbers 18:24, indicating that the halachot of the grain tithe, apply only to the children of Israel, but not to Gentiles. From the juxtaposition, one derives the same holds for substitution. The Brisa continues, and one does not bring libations for a Gentile as an independent offering, but his offering requires libations. This is statement of Rabbi Shimon. The Gemara explains from where these matters derive. They are derived from a verse, as the sages taught in the Brisa. The verse states with regard to libations, all that are homeborn, so do these after this manner, in presenting an offering made by fire, a sweet savor to the Lord, Numbers 15:13. One who is homeborn, i.e. a Jew, brings libations, but a Gentile does not bring libations. One might have thought that a Gentile's burnt offering should not require libations, therefore the verse states, so what's the footnote? So Tameloma Kacha, so the verse states concerning libations, so it shall be done for each bull, or for each ram, or for each of the lambs, or of the goats, Numbers 15:10-11. This teaches that libations are dependent upon the offering. This teaches that the libations are dependent upon the offering, regardless of who brings it. Therefore, if the Gentiles did not send money to purchase libations, they are purchased using communal funds. The Rambam holds that the libations for the offering of a Gentile are purchased using communal funds ab initio, and says a different verse as a proof text of the Gemara. All that are homeborn shall do these after this manner, Kacha, Numbers 15:13, indicating that Jews must provide libations for every sacrifice. So it shall be done for each bull, or for each ram, or for each of the lambs, or of the goats, Numbers 15:10-11. They see that every burnt offering, even that of a Gentile, requires libations. The Brisa continues. Rabbi Yossi says, I can see the logic of the opinion that in all of these cases, it is correct to be stringent about the offering of Gentiles. The Gemara explains what is the reason. With regard to the offering of a Gentile, it is written, whosoever be in the house of Israel, or of the strangers in Israel that brings his offering, whether it be any of their vows, or any of their gift offerings, which are brought to the Lord for a burnt offering, Leviticus 22:18. Verse equates the offering of Gentiles, the strangers in Israel, i.e. in Israel, with those of Jews. and indicate that the consecrated state of the former is identical to that of the latter. The Bible continues. In what case is the statement said? It is said with regard to animals consecrated for the altar, but with regard to animals consecrated for temple maintenance, who benefits from them is liable for misuse in consecrated property. The Gemara explains what is the reason. The reason is that when we learn that items consecrated by Gentiles are not subject to liability for misuse, but the verbal analogy between the word sin and another instance of the word sin in the context of teruma, by only the consecrated property that is similar to teruma, which is consecrated with inherent sanctity, but with regard to an animal that has the sanctity of the temple maintenance, whose sanctity inheres in its value, and it will ultimately be sold, and the proceeds of temple maintenance, the analogy does not apply. So let's explain this in the footnote. Several later commentaries ask why the Gemara did not state an fortiori inference as follows. If with regard to offerings, which are stringent in that they have its sanctity, one is not liable for misuse of consecrated property, then with regard to an animal and an item that has a more lenient sanctity that inherits its value, one also more so should not be liable for misuse. They explain that since offerings are dependent on their relationship to the owners, the offerings of a Gentile are categorized as such and are not subject to the halacha of misuse. By contrast, items dedicated to temple maintenance are no longer associated with the one who donated them, and are not considered dedications of a Gentile. Chadushim Ravei Yosef Dat. It is explained based on Tosfot that the derivation from the words in the verse to the Lord, Leviticus 22:18, which specifically excludes an item that sanctity of the temple maintenance as fast emes. The Mishnah teaches that one who affects substitution receives lashes. Rav Yehuda says that Rav said, with regard to any prohibition in the Torah, if one performed an action and to transgress it, he is liable to receive lashes. But if he did not perform an action to transgress it, he is exempt from receiving lashes. The Gemara asks, is it an established principle that one who transgresses a prohibition that does not involve an action is exempt? But there is a prohibition of substitution, which is a prohibition that does not involve an action, and one is flogged for transgressing it. As in the Mishnah, that is to say, that is not to say that it is permitted for a person to expect substitution. Rather, it means that if one substitutes not take animal consecrated animal, the substitution takes effect, and the one is substituted not take the animal incurs 40 lashes. The Gemara answers, Rav could have said to you, in accordance with whose opinion is this Mishnah written, is in accordance with that opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who said, with regard to a prohibition that does not involve an action, one is flogged for transgressing it. However, the rabbis disagree. The Gemara counters, can you establish the Mishnah as being in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? But we established the first clause of the Mishnah as not being in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda as it teaches. Everyone substitutes a non-sacred animal for a consecrated animal, and the Gemara added into a, what does the expansive term everyone serve to include? It serves to include an inheritor, and accordingly, this Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that an inheritor cannot affect substitution. The Gemara answers, the Tana of this Mishnah holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda with regard to one matter, that one is flogged for a prohibition that does not involve an action, and disagrees with him with regard to one other matter, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that an inheritor does not place his hand on the head of the offering when he sacrifices it. The inheritor is not able to substitute a non-sacred animal for a consecrated one that he inherited. And the Tana of our Mishnah holds that an inheritor places his hand on the head of the offering when he sacrifices it. And the inheritor is able to substitute a non-sacred animal for a consecrated one that he inherited. Rav Idi Bar Avin says that Rav Ammon says that Rav Yitzchak says that Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Yossi Achlili, with regard to every prohibition in the Torah, if one performed an action to transgress it, he is flogged. But if he did not perform an action to transgress it, he is exempt from lashes, except for one who takes an oath and for one effects substitution. So what does this mean? Nisba Meima, one who takes an oath and one who affects substitution. Tosfot explained that although the prohibition of defamation, see Deuteronomy chapter 22, and being a conspiring witness, Deuteronomy chapter 19, also carry the punishment of lashes, they are not listed as a punishment explicit in the Torah. Additionally, they note that the list need not be exhaustive, despite employing the term except for. Others know that Rabbi Yochanan himself holds that speech is considered an action, as he was in Bava Metzia 90b, that if one muzzles the animal using his voice, e.g. by berating it when it attempts to eat, he is viewed as having transgressed by performing an action and is flogged. Why then does he indicate that speech is not an action? By listing these as exceptions to the primary principle, the Midrash explains that this is in fact his point, that since these three transgressions involve speech, they are akin to transgressions involving action. Thus, for an answer that only in the case of Muslim does Rabbi Yochanan consider speech to be an action, as it causes the animal to act in a certain manner. By contrast, in these cases, there is only speech. And one curses another using the name of God. There is a principle learned by tradition that if one transgresses a prohibition without performing an action, he is exempt from being flogged, except for the one who takes an oath or affects substitution or curses another using the name of God. This is in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yochanan in the name of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, the Sefer Korbanot, Teruma 1:1, and the Sefer Shoftim, Hilchot Sanhedrin 18:2. For these three transgressions, even though he did not perform an action, he is liable to receive lashes. They said in the name of Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Hanina, one who separates Teruma prior to designating first fruits is flogged. The Bikurim, a little background on the Bikurim, there's a little picture here of the procession to the temple of the first fruits. The first fruits of a new harvest were given to the priest. See Deuteronomy 26:1-11. In the times of the temple, a farmer will select the first of the 7 types of fruit with which Eretz Yisrael is favored. See Deuteronomy 8:8. He would bring them to the temple in a basket, place them before the altar, and recite prayers of thanks to God. Afterward, the fruit was given to the priest and eaten under the same restrictions governing Teruma. First fruits were brought to the temple between the festivals of Shavuot and Sukkot. If they were not brought during that period, an extension was granted until Chanukah. An entire tractate of the Mishnah Bikurim is devoted to the details of this mitzvah. Or is told even though Teruma can be separated by intention alone without an action. The Gemara discusses the sources for these exceptions. From where do we derive that one who takes an oath using the name of God is flogged? Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Meir that the verse states, "For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that he takes his name in vain," Exodus 27. We're going to further higher, heavenly court does not hold him guiltless, as repentance alone will not atone for the sin, but the lower earthly court flogs him, thereby allowing him to atone and absolves him of guilt. Malkin also, Umnakin also. The Torah Chaim asks, what is unique about this? In the case of all the prohibitions that the transgressor is flogged and achieves atonement. He explained that what is unique about this transgression is that even after one is flogged, he still has not achieved atonement with regard to his heavenly obligations. Some early commentaries explain similarly that after one is flogged, he loses state as being subject to taking false oaths, and he is not entirely forgiven for the disgrace of God's name caused by his sin. Rav Papa said to Abai, but why not say that the verse means he cannot be absolved of guilt at all? Abai said to him, if so, let the verse right only, will not hold him guiltless, and be silent. Why do I need the verse to specify for the Lord will not hold him guiltless? This serves to teach that it is the higher court that will not hold him guiltless. The lower court flogs him and absolves him of guilt. And the Gemara continues, we found a source for the halacha that one who takes an oath in vain using God's name is flogged. From where do we derive that the same holds for a false oath? Shvur shah v'shvur sheker, an oath in vain and a false oath. An oath in vain refers to one taking an oath that has no meaning, e.g. one takes an oath that contradicts an obvious fact, such as taking an oath that a stone is in fact gold. Additionally, it includes one who takes an oath stating an obvious fact, such as taking an oath that a stone is a stone. An oath to violate a mitzvah is also included in this category. As such, an oath does not take effect. An oath to perform an impossible act is included in this category as well. By contrast, a false oath is one that concerns a matter that can be true, or an oath to fulfill an action that can be fulfilled, whether it relates to the past, e.g. if one said, I take an oath that I threw an item, or that I did not throw an item, or whether it pertains to the future, e.g. I take an oath that I will throw an item, or that I will not throw an item. The Gemara answers that Rabbi Yochanan himself says the derivation. The verse states with regard to an oath taken in vain, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. Exodus 27. It says in vain twice in this verse. If the second instance of the term is not necessary for the matter of oath taken in vain, which is derived from the first instance applied to the matter of a false oath, to teach that one who takes such an oath is flogged, Rabbi Abahu objects to the explanation of Rabbi Yochanan. One of the circumstances of a false oath in the discussion, if we say that the one taking the oath said, I take an oath that I will not eat a certain item, and he then ate that item, there he performed an action to violate his oath by eating the item, and the prohibition would involve an action. And if it was rather a case where he said, I take an oath that I will eat a certain item, and he did not eat that item, is the individual flogged? But wasn't it stated, if one says, I take an oath that I will eat this loaf today, and that the day passed and he had not eaten it? If one said, I take an oath that I will eat this loaf today, and the day passed and he did not eat it, and if unintentionally failed to eat it, he must bring a sliding scale offering. If his failure to eat was intentional, he is not flogged, he did not perform an action. And one is not flogged for the violation of any prohibition of an action according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, and that's in the Rambam Sefer Hilchos Shavuot 420. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish both say he is not flogged. Rabbi Yochanan says that he is not flogged, as this is a prohibition that does not involve an action, and one is not flogged for any prohibition that does not involve an action. And Reish Lakish says that he is not flogged, as there was only an uncertain forewarning for the transgressor. Tehavalei asra as safek. There is a principle that one is not flogged for transgressing a prohibition unless he was forewarned immediately before transgressing. The forewarning must clearly identify the prohibition as well as its punishment. In this case, one is forewarned not the oath he took that he will eat a certain item, the forewarning will not be issued immediately before the transgression, as even if he refrains from eating the item after the forewarning is issued, he may still eat it later in the day. Even if he were to be forewarned at the close of the day, the forewarning has no substance, as he has no way to heed the forewarning to eat the item as the day is over in Tosfot Harosh. It was very difficult for the witnesses to issue the forewarning with precisely enough time for him to heed their warning and eat the item, even if they issue the warning repeatedly, and therefore the warning will always be an uncertain forewarning. Alay Hashar. One must be warned immediately before the transgression to be held liable. But here there was no single moment of transgression, and one is not flogged for any transgression that follows an uncertain forewarning. If Rabbi Yochanan holds he is not flogged, to what case do you affirm when he states that one is flogged for a false oath even though no action is involved? Rather, Rabbi Abahu says, let the case be where one says, I take an oath that I ate a certain item, and in fact he did not eat it, or he said, I take an oath that I did not eat a certain item, and in fact he did eat it. In these cases, he transgressed the prohibition by speech alone without an action. The Gemara asks, and one is different about an oath concerning the past. That verse includes one who takes an oath of I ate or I did not eat is as liable to be flogged, more than one who takes an oath of I will eat and then I did not eat. In both cases, no action is performed. But it says the Torah explicitly includes Beferish Ribs Torah. Rashi explains that this refers to the Ten Commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, lashut, lashav. For the Lord will not hold guiltless that takes his name in vain, lashav. This is 27. The repetition of the term in vain teaches that this verse applies to false oaths as well. According to Rabbi Yochanan, cited Tosfot in Tractate Shavuot, explaining that the Ten Commandments written in the book of Exodus, the verse states, you shall not bear false witness a sheker against your neighbor, Exodus 20:13, and in the Ten Commandments written in the book of Deuteronomy, the corresponding verse states, neither shall you bear false witness a shav against your neighbor, Deuteronomy 5:17. Therefore, one can infer that sheker and shav are equivalent in the case of oaths as well, and one can apply halacha state in the context of an oath taken in vain, shvut shav, to a false oath, shvut sheker. One might know that false oath pertaining to the past is more similar to an oath taken in vain, as is apart from the moment the oath is taken that it is false. While an oath that pertains to the future, though it may ultimately be proven false, could have been true at the time it was taken. Just a case of a false oath that is similar to a case of an oath that taken in vain. Just as an oath taken in vain refers to the past, so to the false oath for one is flogged must pertain to the past. Rabbi Yirmiyah raised an objection to Rabbi Bacha from a Mishnah in Shvut 27b. If one says, I take an oath that I will not eat this loaf, if a loaf was placed before someone and he said, I will not eat this loaf, I take an oath that I will not eat it, and then he ate it, he's liable for only one transgression. Rambam Sefer Haflash Hilchot 4:9. I take an oath that I will not eat it, I take an oath that I will not eat it, and then he ate it, he's liable for only one violation. And this is an oath, and this is the oath of an utterance for which one is liable to receive lashes for his intentional violation, and to bring a sliding scale offering for its unwitting violation. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, when the Mishnah uses the limiting term, this is the oath, what does it serve to exclude? It is not to exclude a case where one says, I take an oath that I ate a certain item, when in fact he did not eat it, or I take an oath that I did not eat a certain item, when he did eat it, to teach that he is not flogged in those cases, and to contradict the explanation of Rabbi Baruch. The Gemara answers, no, in both cases one is flogged for violating prohibition intentionally. Rather, the phrase means this is the oath for which one brings an offering for its unwitting violation. In the case where one unwittingly said, I ate a certain item when in fact he did not eat it, or I did not eat a certain item when he did eat it, he does not bring an offering. And whose opinion does this Mishnah represent? It is the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, who said, one is liable to bring an offering only for an oath that refers to the future, one is not flogged even for an oath that pertains to the past. The Gemara counters, but say the latter clause in the Mishnah Shvut 29a, if one takes an oath that a stone is gold, or some other absurdity, this is the oath taken in vain, for which one is liable to receive lashes if he utters it intentionally, for which one is exempt from bringing an offering if he utters it unwittingly. What does the limiting term, this is the oath, used by the Mishnah, serve to exclude? Does it not serve to exclude a case where one said, I ate a certain item, and in fact he did not eat it, or I did not eat a certain item when he did eat it, to teach that he is not flogged in those cases? The Gemara answers, no, in both cases one is flogged for violating the prohibition intentionally. Rather, the phrase means this is the oath for which one is exempt from making an offering if he utters it unwittingly. But in the case where one said, I ate a certain item, when he in fact did not eat it, or I did not eat a certain item, when he did eat it, he brings an offering. And whose opinion does this represent? The opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who said, one brings an offering even for violation of an oath that refers to the past. The Gemara protests, but didn't you say earlier that the clause represents the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel? One does not bring an offering for falsehood pertaining to the past, rather from the fact that the latter clause represents the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, it follows that the first clause must represent the opinion of Rabbi Akiva as well. And one must therefore suggest, until the explanation of the first clause, the phrase, this is the oath employed there, does not purely claim to exclude a case where one said, I ate a certain item, or I did not eat a certain item. Rather, it says to exclude a case where one said, I will eat a certain item, and he did not subsequently eat it. So that's not the end of Amud B, and I'm going to have to end there, and I wish you a very good day, and peace in Israel. Take care, bye.